Hello, everyone. We're going to continue our discussion here on how we can ensure equitable and purposeful homework practices. We talked about what we should do if the students are in red, meaning they do not have the skills necessary to complete the assignment. Now we're going to move on and we're going to talk about our students in yellow. Now, our students in yellow are only somewhat able to complete the task independently, meaning they're on the right track for sure, but they still need to develop some procedural fluency. Maybe they have a misconception here and there that's getting in the way of their learning and getting in the way of the answer being correct. Maybe the students they just don't have the confidence yet. So our students in yellow here are the ones that are just developing their skills. Now, the most important thing you have to think about, your students in yellow need instant feedback, like right away. Now, I'm not talking about the process of going over the answers the next day in class. That sort of technique will not help your students in yellow. If your students in yellow are at home practicing on their own, and they don't have that instant feedback, how are they going to know they are on the right track? Right? So there's two types of tasks that we're going to have to talk about. And this is really, really important for our yellow students. So the first type of task would be what's called a static task. So a static task is when the students put in an answer and nothing changes. They just, it's just, there's no feedback from it. They just move on to the next question. Compared to a dynamic task where when students put in their answer for question one, something will happen. And when that something happens, that's how they'll know that they are on the right track. Our students in yellow need dynamic tasks. You know, oftentimes we go back and we think about how oh, my students, they need more practice, we need to review this assignment, so we give them, let's say, an extra practice worksheet. But what we know is assigning more problems is not the solution. Our students in yellow do not need to complete more of the same math problems. They need to know instant feedback. They need to know instantly after each question whether it's right or wrong. And then they also need that scaffolded support. So we need to make sure that our students in yellow are receiving dynamic tasks, which would provide them with some sort of instant feedback. Now, if your task does not offer instant feedback, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. So in this case here, if your students are not going to get instant feedback, but they are going to get a tool. So they will be given a tool to help them. Now, here's where UDL comes in. Remember, with UDL, it's the planning stages, and we're planning for barriers. And the student in yellow is a student that may or may not get the answer right. So there's probably a lot of barriers for our students in yellow, and we need to make sure that we plan on how our students can either get around that barrier or through that barrier. So if your task does not give instant feedback, but you're giving them a tool, that's going to make it more appropriate. Now, what do I mean by tool? So what is a tool? A tool is basically just something to help your students either get around the barrier or through the barrier. So maybe you are going to allow the students to use a calculator. Maybe you want to incorporate collaboration so they can get support from their peers. Maybe it's how you structure the assignment. Maybe with your yellow students, you're going to work together on the parts of the assignment where you know they need the most help. And then you're going to let them go home, depending on your goal, and complete the rest of the assignment. But if our task does not give instant feedback, we really, really have to make sure that we are giving our students some sort of tool. Now, if your students are not going to know if they're on the right track, So if there's no instant feedback and they're not going to know if they're on the right track, this is not an appropriate task for homework. We cannot send this home for homework. We have to be super careful with our students' learning when they're working independently at home. Now, instant feedback, is that everything? I would say no. It's important, but it's not everything. They need instant feedback and they need scaffolded support. So imagine being in that situation there where you're at home by yourself, right? You do one problem, it's wrong. You do another problem, it's wrong, wrong, wrong. That's not going to really help develop a growth mindset. That's probably going to cause a lot of frustration with our students. Yes, I know I'm getting the answer wrong, but why am I getting my answer wrong? It's really important that we offer that support there. So, scaffolded support. We want to help our students build a growth mindset. And with that, we need to make sure that, yes, we're giving them that instant feedback, but we're also telling them what to fix immediately so they don't develop those bad habits or misconceptions. We have to be really fragile with the students learning in the yellow stage. In this yellow stage, they could either go to red or they could go to green. And really, we want as many students as possible to get to green. So our students in yellow, they're unsure of themselves and the math, right? So we need to make sure that we pay extra close attention and be extra fragile with those students and give them the support that they need so we can move more students to the green instead of back to the yellow. So essentially what we're trying to do is we want to encourage our students to learn from their mistakes. We know we want to celebrate that, hey, you know what, we made mistakes, that's all right, but more importantly, we want to celebrate learning from those mistakes. Now, if a student is making mistake and not getting the support, not getting that scaffolding support, that's going to lead to frustration. I think we've all been in a situation like that when you have a task that you know you can't do, but you don't know what to do to fix it, and that's really, really a frustrating position to be in. It's not fun at all. So we want to make sure that mistakes are not causing frustration, but that mistakes are providing motivation to do the next problem better, to get the next problem right.